So we'll start in a couple of minutes. The class has just got over, so people procurement and supply chain management. Dr. Aditya Verma has worked with some of the top names in the industry. He has authored several papers on various aspects of supply chain management and has to his credit a book called Supplier Matters, where he demonstrates his experience in saying that choosing the right supplier could be a make or break decision for the company and can be critical in delivering value to the customer. Dr. Verma is here today to share his insights with us, taking time off his busy schedule. So everyone, stay focused, stay attuned. For now, we are handing the floor over to you, Dr. Aditya Verma. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Let me just try to give me a few seconds just to get my screen shared so that if you guys are able to hear me or see my screen, just let me know. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen and now we can see the slide as well.
Okay. So thanks everyone for maybe joining this evening after your hectic day. And let me start without further addendum to the discussion that we are at the start of a festive season. So I thought it's good to start with Ganesha, and this time Ganesha as a manager. So probably my only request is that if you remember some of the attributes we talked today about Ganesha, probably rest of the slide would be even would be additional information. So the whole expectation that when you guys complete your course, go into the market, join corporate or do your own business or whatsoever you do, maybe few of the things which Ganesha teaches us as a manager, as a guru, is going to work as a success sutra. So let me start, and I think many of it you might have heard before, so some of it will be repeat, but it's still good to repeat. So as we see, Ganesha is with elephant head with a human body, which says a couple of things to us, signifies a lot of things which is good to remember. Big head means in a business world as a manager, please ensure that you focus on thinking big. There will be a lot of small things which will be attracting you or diverting your attention. But if you think big, you will go great. And I think that's exactly every organization or expect from a manager. And this big head has two small eyes. So that signifies focus approach. So if whatever we do, wherever we walk, whether it's studies or career related, stay focused. And when you stay focused, you every time you get closer to your destination or your objective. Two big ears, that means as a manager, listen more. When people see you as helping hand, that could be only possible when you listen to everyone. And there's a shloka in Yajurved which says which goes like this: Anubhadrai kritva yantu vishwata. That means all the time there is knowledge flowing. If we keep our ears open, we will let the knowledge get inside. And if you see the God creation, God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth, exactly in the 1:2 ratio. Means listen at least double the amount you speak, and that's the best way to learn. So big ears, listen more. Small mouth beneath this trunk means speak less. And when you speak less, obviously you listen more, because I think this auto adjustment is like this: when you're speaking, actually you're not listening. You may be hearing some sound, but you'll not be listening. So To listen more, you have to speak less, then only it works. Then you can see the trunk, which signifies as a manager, one has to have strong business sense. A lot of opportunities would be happening close by, wherever you go, whether in a formal setting or informal setting. If you have that strong sense of business, you'll identify and leverage those opportunities. This trunk, you can see a little bit in a tilted form. What does it mean? Means nothing will come easily. This tilt is basically signifying complexity. Anything which is coming in a difficult way is going to stay with you, which is more complex is going to stay with you. But something you get very easily, maybe somebody else will take away from you. So don't get afraid of complexity. Dare to challenge those complexities. Every complexity will prepare some new ground for you. So I think handling complexity or facing those complexity is going to be a big personality factor over a period of time, which will help you as a manager. This phase has, you can see, two tasks. One is broken and one is full task. So this signifies as the manager your capability, your ability. The broken task means sacrifice. Many times you have to sacrifice smaller things to achieve something bigger in your life. And you have to take your own decision, which will happen so often that that particular behavior, if you cultivate that, knowing what you want to achieve, think big. So in that process, you might have to sacrifice so many things. So don't be afraid of doing so. And the full task signifies beautification. Beautification means your communication and presentation skill. Even if you have a best of the information, knowledge, skill set, but if you're not able to influence others, you're not able to communicate your stuff, probably in a business world, it will not add value. So irrespective of your technical skill, irrespective of whatever you do, your communication and presentation skill is going to add value in a multiple way to whatever in field or whatever you are doing in your career. Then you could see two hands. One is carrying modak, which is called modak in Maharashtra, maybe a kind of a sweet, and the other hand in a posture of blessing. So as a manager, you might have a team which may have a different capability, capacity, potential, etc. And probably your weakest link in the team is the weakest point. So as a manager, you need to support those guys so that everybody comes to the same level and strengthen your efforts, strengthen your team. So do support people who work for you and they see you as their leader, not as a manager. You don't need to manage them, you have to lead them. Then the Modak says that reward for the good work. Even the saying thank you is a reward. And don't be, let's say, controlling these acts. Many times we remember to criticize people or say something which is not very motivating, but we feel, oh, this was his job, why to say thank you? But this small thank you makes huge difference in motivating people, especially the youngster who join in the corporate world. They may have done something, might be very small, but when somebody says thanks to those guys, they get highly motivated and try to, because they come with a very high amount of the will factor, and the small thank you makes a huge difference to those guys. You can see big belly. That signifies as a manager your aptitude for confidential information. So when you work as a manager or a leader in the organization, you come across many informations. Maybe you would be meeting a lot of your, say, school time friend, college time friend, and little bit tempted to share about your projects and other stuff, what you're doing. But I think having that sense, what is confidential, what is non-confidential, is a one very critical skill set for any manager. And that differentiation and that attribute of the personality, keeping things confidential, is one of the key tasks for any manager. This whole big body with the elephant head are on those 2 feet. Basically, that signifies that people should see you this as a firm commitment, means something which is holding this whole thing. It signifies your firm commitment. So once you are known as a leader, people would look at you. They will believe even a single word, even if you have said in a certain very, very light moment. So just make sure that whatever you commit, whatever you try to put across people to follow you, that even your single commitment and these attributes is going to make a huge difference, and people see you that's a person of commitment. So this particular thing which is holding the whole body is basically providing the stability, and your commitment would provide stability to the organization. Small feet, which actually signifies the value system. So even if you have a highest level of communication skill, very high technical skills, but weak in the value system, what is the value system? Safety, integrity, ethics, people care. And if your value system, I think, is not in place, things can collapse. We have seen many bigger organizations, one fine day that got disappeared because somewhere there was some violation on the ethical ground or integrity, etc., etc. So hold your value system and make sure the organization you are joining or you're working for has very good sync with your value system. If your value system and organization value systems are different, then the sustainability would be big challenge. So make sure that these basic attributes of Ganesha is going to be very useful in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day decision-making factor. And probably this will be something everybody would look into their supervisor, their boss, or their leader. Last but not the least, in the picture, you can see a rat here. And there's a mythological story with this rat, which goes like this, that Shiva and Parvati had a pot of nectar, and they wanted to give to one of their son, Kartikeyan and Ganesha. So they put a condition that whoever takes the fastest round of the universe is going to be candidate for this pot of nectar. So Ganesha has this rat, and his brother Kartikeyan had peacock. So he just sat on the peacock and started flying across the universe. Ganesha just held himself back and just thought of the Vedas, which where he remembered that somewhere it was there that there's nobody bigger than your parents. So he just sat on the rat and took a round of the parents and claimed for the pot of nectar. And the lesson here for the manager is, I'm not saying or demeaning the hard work, but in this comparative world, we are looking for the smart work. And that's exactly is the attribute we look into today's manager. And when we especially hire people from a prestigious institute, we are not looking for a conventional stuff. We are looking for something different. And something different is something which is more smart. So this basic behavioral aspects, which I think with the Ganesha picture we discussed, is very meaningful. I have experienced that throughout my career, and I have conviction that probably if we all feel that way, we'll not only facilitate our younger generations, but also make very great contribution to the organization and the business we work for. Okay, so let me move to the next one, and maybe if anybody has any question and query, they can just take it in the end of this presentation. So let me take it again from the story perspective. Ganesha was one of the story which talks about the ideal manager attributes one should have. And let me take this, you might have heard about, all the students have seen probably the Three Idiots. That was one of the very popular movie. So I thought, let me talk about the Four Idiots. That's the other side of the corporate world. And to share this story of Four Idiots, let me go back to the childhood time when we used to hear this Akbar and Birbal story. So once Akbar told to Birbal, Birbal, can you go and find 4 idiots and get them here in the court? So Birbal said, that's a very difficult task. I need around week, 10 days time. So Akbar said, fine, okay. When you come back next time, just get and come with the 4 idiots. So that was the task given to Birbal, and Birbal took week off, and after week, he appeared in the court with 2 people. And Akbar was surprised. I asked this guy to come with the 4 people, 4 idiots. I could see only 2 guys with him. So he said, Birbal, are you ready with 4 idiots? Birbal said, yes, sir, I'm ready with 4 idiots. So Akbar said, okay, bring them in. And Birbal brought one guy and said, sir, he's the idiot number 1. I saw him, he was sitting on the cart and holding.
So your voice, we lost you there for 30 seconds.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's audible.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Should we? We
Yes,
can hear
sir. We can hear you.
Okay. So that guy, Birbal says, is the idiot number 1. And he was sitting in the cart, but holding a bundle of grass on his
We
head.
cannot hear you, sir.
You can't hear me?
So,
No, sir, we can hear you.
Shilpi, maybe
It might be at your end.
Guys, okay, just let me know. Is it okay
can
now?
anyone hear, sir?
Yes, we can hear him.
yeah, we
Yes,
can
sir,
hear.
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so let me go ahead then. And so Birbal said,
Okay.
this guy is the idiot number 1, because even if sitting in the cart, he was holding the bundle of grass on his head. And the twist here is that we get so many such idiots in the corporate world. And the guys who have a lot of work, they don't have time to complete the work, but they don't want to hand over. So people like you, when join in the organization, there will be many organizations where you'll have to struggle for getting the work, because nobody want to discharge any of their work with the some kind of I would say complex or something. And probably when you get into the corporate world, don't be that kind of a person, because the more you facilitate, you help in growing the organization. Then Akbar said, who is the second one? So Birbal said, sir, this is the second idiot. He brings another person and tells that this guy was beating his cow and pushing his cow to climb on the ladder to eat the grass which was there on the rooftop. And for me, he's an idiot guy. Rather than beating cow, he could do some other alternate options. So, and again, the twist here is that we have many such idiots in the corporate world as well, who will try to push you to achieve something, without asking about the resource, tool, infrastructure, etc. And which is simply they want to copy to the rest of the world, but don't talk about the other resources, etc. required to achieve that. So don't be that kind of manager. Be realistic one. Set the target which is actually possible with the stretch to achieve, rather than demotivating people. And I think we will get many such idiots in the corporate world, across the organization, smaller to bigger. So then Akbar said, who is the third idiot? Because there were only two guys people came with. So Birbal said, sir, this is the third idiot is me. I'm so important guy in your court who could have so many other important things to do. But rather than focusing on those, I just followed you and added no value either to the public or to you or to the court or to anybody, and doing this kind of rubbish job. So I feel that I am the third idiot. And you will get, again, not surprisingly, many such idiots in the corporate world who just follow boss. They don't know what is their major focus area or what purpose, objective they want to have. They just want to look for the shortcuts and some kind of this behavior, which nowhere takes any organization to growth path. So my request is, it'll be very tempted one, but don't be such kind of a manager when you land up into the corporate world. Fourth and the last probably is the obvious, and but Akbar dared to ask to Birbal who is the fourth one, and Birbal said without any hesitation, sir, it's you. Because you have so many things to do in the best interest of the public people, but you put me on such a job which has no value for anyone, taken so much time of yours and so many people. And we probably get so many such idiots in the corporate world also. They have no idea what they want doing and how is value adding to the industry, to the business, to the organization, to the people. But just because they feel they feel like doing it, they're doing it. So my only comment here is, don't be that kind of a person when it comes to you. So with these two stories and Ganesha and 4 idiots, I wanted to give you both the perspective that after your 2 years in the campus, when you feel the real world, you'll have both the options, and it is totally up to you which way you want to go. And there'll be multiple opportunity pulling you in both the sides. So that was short story on the 4 idiots. Let me come back to the basics stuffs on the supply chain and the procurement, or something to do with the book I wrote about supplier matters. So in brief, hope you can see my slides.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is actually a KPIs and KRA for any procurement and a supply chain guy. Everybody want material on time, not less, not more, and at the lowest cost. Even if they don't pay to supplier, vendor should be loyal, and don't want to consider any market volatility or any forecast accuracy problem, etc. Just want their material. So my point is that this is, in a very nicer way, you'll see as a KPIs and KRAs for supply chain guys. And everything would just boils down that how much weightage your supplier gives to you, or how much is a kind of a reciprocation relationship, how much weightage you give to your supplier. So I thought, let me talk about this subject today. And that's how we reached to a word like supplier matter. And if you see this particular word, the R is in a broken state, because every organization want to focus on so much on supply, they forget that supply is something which is a part of the supplier. If they take care of the supplier, supply will be taken care of it. But if you only focus on the supply part, probably one or two hits you can give, but not on a consistent basis. So there are many more things we will talk about, and which will focus on as a supply chain professional. There are certain work related and behavior related skills. Sorry. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll talk about this, and any procurement or supply chain guy has to manage these challenges on day-to-day basis to ensure that their end offering to the customer is very competitive, on time, they don't block their cash into the inventories, and at the same time, there's no shortage of any material to run their show. So too often in the past, supplier was selected primarily on the basis of the cost, and that proved costly, which we have seen in 70s time. Japan was the case. Everything was very cheap, but it was not long lasting. Then the same perception was built for the Chinese product. And eventually, people have started giving value to the various other aspects, not only to the cost. And if that is the reason, I think one of the success story of this Apple, that was the first company, most expensive phone, but had a turnover of more than $1 trillion. So probably quality speaks. And at the same time, if as a manager or the supply chain, if we focus too much on the cost, things will prove more costly. And when we are talking about the costs, many times the cost people compare only on the price level, but it's not actually the price. When we are talking about the cost, we are talking about the total cost of ownership. And total cost of ownership has a lot to do with the quality of your supplier. And when I say quality of your supplier means a lot of things which comes into place, your lead time, how much inventory because of the supplier, say, performance level, you have to manage distance aspect, which leads into the transportation, defects, process time, sustainability, and amount of outsourcing that supplier does. And as a supply chain, we need to know about the total costs, and all these total costs is not actually reflected in the price point. Many of these are so soft costs, you will only realize when you get into the business. You can't figure out many of those costs unless until you experience those things, and gradually that's required some kind of a vendor rating mechanism or some kind of a qualification, requalification mechanism for the suppliers. And henceforth, why this topic becomes relevant, because if your business suffered because your supplier is not able to perform, probably it will not work in a best interest of the organization. And many such cases we have seen in the real world. In 2006, there was some battery issue with the Sony, which was used in the laptop, and all these bigger brands who were buying almost 10 million laptop was recalled, was called back by Sony for replacement of battery because battery was getting. And I think similar thing happens with Samsung Galaxy phone. So with one single problem, which was with the outsourced battery vendor, has damaged the entire reputation of the particular brand. In 2008, we have seen what happened. A lot of companies went into the bankruptcy. And I think similar time, there were a lot of restriction with some developing countries and in African countries by the Western world because there was child labor abuse. And in 2010, Toyota has to recall around 8 million, 8 million cars for change of their baking system because of some design fault. So all these things will lead to vendor related, and I think sometimes the compensation was given was even much bigger than the cost of the product. Recently, it happened with the Maruti. I think in 2013 or 14, when Maruti has to replace around 4 lakh seat belts because it was not performing. And the point here is, even your all top line growth efforts go jeopardized if your supplier selection is wrong and something goes uh, wrong with the supplier quality, and that hit straight to your business from a goodwill and from a revenue perspective. So there are n number of cases. I just listed 4-5 here, and that signifies our importance for spending time in selection of right source. So it's kind of your spouse. If you select the right one, you will flourish. If you select the wrong one, things will be more challenging for you to manage your day-to-day life. So let me go back to all of you. Maybe give me some voice. If these are the 4 guys as an option for you as a supplier, which one you will choose and why? Any voice?
So the third one, a combination of capital and knowledge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the one way of looking at it. And the second way of looking at it, that's the only guy who has a big picture, or rather the larger picture. The rest of everybody has some kind of obstruction on the visibility. So if the bigger picture is the business opportunity, yes, it needs both both the power, money, and the knowledge. And once you have both the power, right balance of the power, you can really be right partner for any business. Okay, so this slide, I'm more talking about that when we started our career, we were somewhere in the old paradigm that risk management was one of the expectations from the supply chain guys. Okay, just make sure the material is available and competitive price. But now if I go back almost around 20 years back, there was not more than 500 multinational companies in India, or maybe around 30 years back. And today there'll be more than 44,000 such companies. What does it mean? It means there is a more complexity for any function, whether it's a sales, whether it's a purchase, whether it's a supply chain or anything. So risk management is still there, but now you guys have to manage the complexity also for the business. There's no firm commitment. You still have to deliver at a best cost, best quality, with the full flexibility, no cash blockage, and there's so many other geopolitical issues. And you can't afford to ignore any country which is most competitive, whether you like them or not. So point here is that how it can be done, probably with the knowledge, with the skills you add in the campus, the kind of exposure, interaction you have with the industry people, what are the complexities they face, etc. So my point here is that now the paradigm has shifted, and business is becoming more complex and challenged, and henceforth every function in the business requires a new skill set to manage these complexities, whether from a financial perspective, whether from a geopolitical perspective, whether from a talent perspective, whether from any other dimension perspective. And some of these complexities, if you see that when we are talking about the supplies, earlier nobody was bothered, okay, I have to compete with Indians, I have to compete with Czech Republic or some. Now the way demographics are changing, new markets are emerging, new and new talent. I worked for Honeywell for almost 13 years. And let me share that in our R&D, we had 50,000 people. Out of that, 35,000 was almost 35,000 were Asian and around 20,000 were Indian. And those 20,000 based, I'm talking not about the Bangalore, I'm talking about US. So I will not be surprised after 20 years if African countries or people from that area is dominating in various countries. So these demographic which are changing has changing the face of every function, whether it's a procurement, supply chain, marketing, business. And if you see many of these organizations, when they go for a global selection of the supplier, they also look at various aspects, the talent, people, economies of scale, R&D capability, innovations, and corporate social responsibility. So I spent a good amount of time in the chemical industry, and when you look for various companies, many times from a technology perspective, we don't look at supplier technology, because Honeywell or DuPont both are R&D driven company. We had a much better technology than anyone else. So when we go and select supplier, at times we look at their CSR activities, because we were looking for sustainability. I don't want to tie up with somebody tomorrow they get locked down because of the any pollution related violation or any child labor related issue, etc., etc. So those priorities, those merit selections preferences are changing, and this is impacting internally, externally, both way, that people are giving focus to corporate social responsibility structure in the organization, innovation, R&D, and talent management, etc. And these are the soft side when we take into consideration with respect to the supplier matters. If I walk through whatever we discussed, I somewhere started my career in '88 and had a chance to go through all these changes. So in that '80s, I was working for a Japanese company, and they taught me just-in-time concept. They say, okay, no need to invest on the inventory, just make sure the suppliers are close by and you get things whenever you want. And that was the kind of a grooming I had. In 90s, sometime in 95, I changed and joined PepsiCo. So I have to de-learn the Japanese concept, and US concept was put everybody into auction. We would buy from the most competitive one. I don't care whether it's a next door or based out of China. So you have to change your skill set again. I mean, somebody believes in some other concept, so you have to gradually learn something new. So we started focusing on outsourcing, offshore suppliers, etc. And there's a different dynamics, different skill set you require to manage those kind of stuff. So in 2000, IT solution, SAP. So entire focus went to your internal learning skill set to integrate your IT functions into your day-to-day fundamentals of the core functions of that particular stream. So there's some learning, again, and some new different type of disruptions, which has to be accommodated into your skill set. In 2010, again, the focus went into the risk management, because as I said, there are 44,000 MNCs companies. Everybody want the share of the business from their customer, and nobody want to invest into inventory, etc. Everything become dynamic. You design your pizza and get it in 2 minutes. So all these functions cascade down to risk management and develop other skill set to deliver your customer delight. And now in 2020, we are talking about digitalization, blockchain, artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning. Again, a new skill set. So probably if any of you have thought, okay, now I've done my MBA, I've already done my graduation. oh, my learning phase is over, now I have to execute. Probably not. We did it after every 10 years or 5 years. You may have to do every 1 year. Some new skill set, some new disruption, some new management style to handle those kind of things. So these are some of the things I just thought to share with you guys, that how we have to manage different kind of disruptions, which was precisely could be only possible with the new skill set we learn and we adapt and we execute in our day-to-day work. Okay, let me take, I hope you don't mind sharing stories. So are you guys okay if I give you another story?
Yes, sir. Please.
So this is basically, we are talking about building credibility, and there was a guy who in US he just put up an ad in the newspaper that he's going to cross Niagara Falls from one side, Canadian side, to US side, and any of you who have seen those sites is very scary. So people read that advertisement with a lot of interest and assembled on that particular day, both sides of the Niagara Fall, just to see that guy crossing from one side to another on the rope. So this guy started from one corner and walking on the rope, and gradually he just crossed from one side to another side coolly. And people were amazed. Everybody was very pleased with his skill set, and everybody clapped, etc. So, and people were really very pleased with that kind of a skill which was demonstrated by this individual. After a week, 10 days, he gives another ad in the newspaper that he's going to again cross Niagara Fall walking on the road by doing the blindfolding himself. People were really amazed this time. Oh, this guy is going to blindfold and still cross this Niagara Fall on the road. So almost half of US and Canada assembled both sides just to watch this. And this guy started from one corner. He took out the black ribbon and blindfolded himself and started walking from one side to another side. And completed successfully. People said, oh, awesome. And everybody clapped and cheered for this guy. So after week 10 days, again, this guy puts up an ad in the newspaper. He's again going to cross Niagara Fall, walking on the road, blindfolding himself and putting somebody on his back. People were really amazed this time. Oh, that kind of a skill. So this guy started on that particular day and he blindfolded himself, and just before starting his walk on the rope, he made an announcement, anybody who is willing to come and sit on his back? No one. Though he successfully demonstrated his skills 2 times, but no one came and volunteered himself to sit on his back. And that's exactly happens many times in the corporate. You say, oh, you have successfully demonstrated something. Now you're a natural candidate for promotion or some bigger project, etc., etc. Not necessarily that. You could be a good guy, but that doesn't mean that I believe you so much. Now I can hand over whatever you like. So don't get demoralized. Keep on doing whatever is your skill set, demonstrating and delivering. Things will happen. Otherwise, nobody will come and sit on your back just because you have did it a few times. Just keep on doing. And that's exactly is the reason that building credibility doesn't talk only about the competence. It has so many other aspects also. So if you see the center portion is if it is the credibility, there are 3 things you require to build your credibility or the trust in the organization. One is competence, your character, and your connectivity. Connectivity is networking. So probably you are competent. Everybody knows that you have all the techno-commercial skill set to do this job. But nobody believes you because character-wise it's a bit shaky. Probably nobody will trust you. You're very high character guy. People trust you, but you're not competent. In a business world, it will not generate a credibility for you. You're highly say position from a character perspective, nobody has any doubt. You're very competent, but you don't have a networking skill. Probably you might not be a material for growth. So this has to happen in a very integrated way. The more this common area within this red zone, the higher it is, the more the trust and the credibility you'll build for yourself. And probably everyone, even without sharing with everybody knows, nobody knows you better than your own conscious. You can rate yourself on 1 to 10 scale on all these 3 skill set, and you know your answer where you have to work hard, whether people should believe you, or you have to add more skill set, or you to enhance your networking, and you will have your area where you need to focus. And these things are equally important whether you work in a supply chain, you work in any other function. This is something like basic behavioral skills you require. I just want to show you this small clip. There's no sound, so so rather than hiring 100 people from a different institute, I would like to hire 3 guys from XLRI who can deliver this performance. And that's exactly is the point. The skill matters. Number, quantity doesn't matter in a business world. So what smart work you do, what skill set you deliver in your function is going to make your organization grow much faster than anyone else. And this could be only possible when we are very much aware about these domains. Many of us, okay, I have got a good brand now, good salary, I'm well settled. अब कुछ पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, सीखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Doesn't happen that way. So when you are in a comfort zone, probably you are not a candidate for the growth. And because once you move out of comfort, you will be landing into a fear zone first. Why do I do this? Oh, whether I'll be successful or not. Why to try? I'm very much good in this. Let's not change my function or change the company or change something else. So some kind of fear zone would hold you back. But once you cross that, you would be more landing into the learning zone because you'll be exposing yourself to the new challenges, and with handling those new problems, you will acquire knowingly, unknowingly new skill set, which is going to extend your comfort zone and make you a real candidate for the growth. And that's exactly will not happen the moment, and the best way of doing it, the moment you feel you are in a comfort zone, that's the time to shake yourself. Whether you work for a blue chip company or you work for a smaller company, you need to identify, and nobody can identify whether you're in a comfort zone or not than you yourself. So probably within the organization, change the function, or outside the industry or within the industry, so that's up to you. But the point here, what I'm referring, that comfort and growth doesn't go hand in hand. It has to be challenged, then only you will get into the growth zone. So I'm just touching behavioral and skill aspect in between, just to tell you that how these behavioral skills are equally important for your functional skills to develop, whether you work in a sales and marketing, business development, procurement, finance, HR, or any other function. So in a sourcing, we call it that sourcing is the art and science, because art, you deal with the people, science, because many materials are involved, which requires you to understand the technology and other stuff behind it. And so when you drive right source, then only you get the right value. And to do so, your say benchmark has to go up on the quality, speed, and efficiency, where the cost has to be brought down. And I think in a very simple way, we say that if you increase the organization sale by 20%, probably even if you have a 20% gross margin, you would be adding 4% to the profit. But in procurement, we say whatever money you save adds 100% to the profitability of the organization. So your skill set is very important. If you can deliver, whatever you deliver adds 100% to the business financial strength. And when we select people for supply chain function, there are a lot of competency we look for, but I thought to share with you the top 6 skill set, which with the other, whether with the interview, whether with the psychometric test, we try to focus what are the basic skill set we should know that guy is actually willing to learn or already acquired or is good at with the natural talent, etc. One is the supplier management, change management, best practices, and comfort level with the change management, strategizing the things, negotiation, cost analysis, and knowledge about the law of the land. And these are the core skills which at a senior level, we look into the supply chain guy. And prima facie, this adds much more value to the organization when we get the right kind of a strength in these particular attributes. So since in the introduction, it was shared that the book I wrote was talking about the supplier matter, I just thought briefly to touch base some of the key themes which this book is talking about. So it talks about giving much more detail on the supplier selection criteria. So when we select supplier, we define the criteria, which might be different from industry to industry, organization to organization. And we do give weightage to each criteria with respect to the specific attribute, etc. And then try to synchronize that the overall score, which is in the best interest of the organization philosophy, as well as fit exactly with the supplier organization culture. The step 2 goes, once that assessment process is fine, it goes with respect to hardcore qualification, wherein we demonstrate in a Six Sigma way, you can say control phase supply, where we do a comprehensive risk assessment, do some kind of a trial supplies, see the demonstration or the performance aspect, and plug the gaps there, and then bring those supply into the real business equation on a regular basis. So this job is so comprehensive and tedious that typically strategic sourcing guy, they focus around 60% of their efforts and time into these 2 activities. And then it passes on to the procurement team, wherein they monitor their performance, they develop their own governance mechanism, and look into the various aspects of improving those things. But these are the core areas where this book is going to is focus about, in addition to my overall experience with the different companies, whether Japanese or Indian or conservative UK based company and US based companies. But prima facie, these are the major focus area for any supply chain guy to focus on the right selection, assessment tools, and then regular performance governance mechanism what they deliver. So it says that plan, do, check, act. Again, recycle the same stuff again and again for the continuous improvement. Some of the stuff, this is I would say if you see this survey is done, even I don't think any of you were born. So this is the supplier selection survey which was done in 1966, and if your fundamentals doesn't change here, so still if you see the quality, delivery, performance, warranties and claims, capacities and price is the top important uh, im- important areas for the supplier selection. So this kind of things reassure that if you are on the right path, if you're focusing in your selection criteria these kind of attributes, and giving your or designing your mechanism of supplier selection which takes care of these aspects, because that will deliver sustainability to the whole activity we are doing. We did the similar thing for the chemical world, based on the same concept that almost picked up around 53, 54 attributes, and doing how and this particular thing, I just want to connect you guys that when I was working for DuPont, I was hired to set up or start India as a supply base for the chemical industry, or for the chemical business DuPont had largely in US and Europe. And let me say that that time they were considering India more as a bullock cart country. Oh, they can't produce electronic chemicals, they can't produce high purity molecules, probably they don't have a right kind of a talent or infrastructure. So it was big risk for us that if we choose a wrong supplier, it will damage the impression of India much more deeper, which will further require much more bigger efforts to roll back. So we develop a template to ensure that there is some criteria in place how we are going to choose supplier, and those criteria were decided based on what matters to DuPont at that point of time, what matters to Western world when they look at a supplier. So this could vary. This was primarily for the chemical industry, I'm sure for electronic, for textile, for software. But the fundamental here is that we have to have those kind of a criteria in place when we are choosing our supplier. We have to have right priorities in place when we create those kind of alliances, because that will only going to give you the sustainability for the equation we are trying to form for the organization. But if I take from a manufacturing standpoint, what are the top criterias we picked up and we given a kind of a weightage, was product quality and consistent performance based on the supplier existing businesses, on-time delivery, some kind of VOC with their existing customers, contamination and prevention related infrastructure, confidentiality and IP protection, etc. Because many of these global companies, they bring their technologies and they're very scared, and probably you name the US organization, they will say, oh, I lost so many technologies in China, so many in other countries. And henceforth, somewhat the India image is much better from IP protection perspective, and that has to be leveraged. And global cost competitiveness, compliance of law and ethical standard, manufacturing technology and innovation, company goodwill, market reputation, corporate health, safety and environmental related aspects and social responsibilities, and organization efficiency and response. So these are the top 10 criteria any companies, any CEO, any business head would like to see in their strategic partners or strategic supply partners, where they rate, where they stand on these aspects. So probably this becomes a very, very important aspect in our supplier selection process, or designing the compatibility with the organization, or looking into the sustainability aspects. But beyond this, when we are working in a global scenario, there are a lot of other things which affects in the decision making. Specifically, if somebody is taking decision whom to work with in India, and that decision is taken in New York, probably there will be a lot of other aspects are equally important. Your geopolitical relationship, how the country to country relationships are there, whether what kind of perception they are carrying about industry in general, whether people compromise with the efficiency, with the quality, what kind of a safety, security culture, general sense about the reliability of deliveries or the reliability of the quality, government regulations, cultural. So these are the all external factors which are given due weightage, even if the supplier is good. Because typically, if I give you again an example from the chemical industries, for me, it takes qualifying a new supplier takes almost 1 year to 6 years. And if anything goes wrong, my efforts gone for that much time is get totally into drain. And henceforth, all these internal and external factors has to be evaluated and taken care of. And somewhere we have to document all those things that what was our finding on these aspects and why did we choose this supplier, not the other supplier. So, which is never known to the supplier, but these are all your back office work we have to do in a supply chain, especially for strategic supply. And if I share some of the example with you guys, students, that we used to have one supplier in DuPont who was based in Israel, and that was a sole source for us. So our CEO used to say that whenever I sign up that contract, my hand shakes because I never know whether I'm going to get supplies or not. This country was out of 12 months, 8 months in some kind of a conflict or some kind of a war. So we used to keep 1 year inventory for that molecule. So all these things matters when you select the location and various other aspects related with your strategic partner, supply partner. So just another small video.
A scientist placed 4 monkeys in a room with a stepladder upon which there was a bunch of bananas. Whenever a monkey went to climb the ladder, the other monkeys in the room were sprayed with cold water. After a while, each time a monkey went for the bananas, the others would attack it to prevent it from doing so. The monkeys learnt to never climb the ladder. But then, one of the monkeys was removed, and a new monkey wearing a raincoat was introduced. Naturally, this monkey went for the bananas, and it was customarily attacked and prevented from doing so by the others. This new monkey learnt not to climb the ladder. So when another monkey was substituted in and made for the bananas, all the others attacked it, including the one in the raincoat, despite the fact that it had never been sprayed with cold water. A third monkey was substituted in, and then a fourth final monkey. And still, whenever a monkey tried to climb the ladder, the others would prevent it from doing so, even though none of them had ever been sprayed with the cold water. When asked why this was, one monkey said, "That's just the way it is."
So we hear this statement quite a lot. That's the way we work. Nobody knows why that's the way they work, but that's the way we work. And probably that is something we need to challenge with the new talent, new generation coming into the industry. It's good that everything is questioned, why we are doing it, is there a better way of doing it? And probably that attitude has to go on. And as a leader, as a manager, even as a subordinate, we need to support this attitude, because you will find this particular culture in many organizations where things are done, and I don't know why those are done. So we need to train, we need to educate people accordingly. And I would say that many of the things, if I give you an example, that I was at that time in the GSK, we were setting up a plant in Sonipat with $110 million money, and the factory inspector did not allow us to run, because the tube well we put, was not having boundary wall of 4 feet. So we said, why the tube well will need boundary wall? But the Factory Act of 1948 says that the water source was the well, and well has to have 4 feet wall. Why do we, there's no well, it's a tube well now. It is already piped. But those guys don't want to change. And then you have to challenge those things. So many such things, I'm just giving a very crude example, but there is many such things people still do, and your customer is not paying for that. And why do you do that? Nobody knows it, because nobody is challenged it. And probably this is the attribute we are looking into. And probably youngsters could add value in that domain by making it much more advanced and modern and challenging the certain things which doesn't add value now. So going again in the book, I try to capture in many of around my experience with almost 25, 26 countries, not talking about the negotiation aspect, how it is done from a theoretical perspective, but more from a cultural perspective. So we try to give some kind of a exposure on the business environment, on the cultural and tactical guidelines, and some kind of a behavioral aspects. And some of the example I'll share in the next slides. And I feel whether you're in a procurement, supply chain, or any other business development function, it is equally important to understand the culture of the market or the customer or the other side you're dealing with. And if I give you some of the short examples, like in Saudi, the local culture, if you look at, they respect punctuality, but if the Saudi guy is late, this is considered as a sign of power. So for example, if you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, if you reach 10:15, the guy would consider as disrespect. But if the Saudi guy is late, probably that's the sign of power. That's the local culture there. And in France, okay, if you are in hurry, go ahead. I don't have time for you also. So no need to talk about business. And graft is a common as taxation in some of the countries, not even in Russia. Turkey is the highest honor if somebody invites you for food at home. If you refuse, it is considered like abuse. So one has to be smart enough. If they don't want to eat, how do they decline that particular offer? Indonesia, consultation fees is a form of getting things done. That's so normal. It's a new. It's not a new normal. It's an old normal there. But that's something which no textbook will teach you. No professor will guide you. But that's the ground reality. Japan, person doing most talking won't be the decision maker. And probably Japanese never do one-on-one negotiation. It's always group negotiation. The person who's talking least, probably will be only following, he's only doing the observation. And when they go back, they will discuss, and that particular person would be the decision maker. So many times we come out, oh, we had a great discussion with the Japanese team, and we should expect our order anytime, but doesn't happen. That's a totally different culture. South Korea, highest level of diplomacy you require. If you probably you'll spoil your case if you are direct on certain things. Even if you're means thoughtful or truth follower, that okay, I'm telling you truth and this is what I'm very straight, or I'm very, very transparent guy, but they don't like it. Thailand, personal relationship is an important part of doing business. I think that's a very typical of Asian culture. People want to know you before they do business with you. Vietnam, time is money, isn't their culture. So I have enough of time. And if you are in a hurry, it doesn't work. US want to play their own rule. So they want to be always a big brother or dominating partner in the deal. So that's the typical tendency under which these culture operates. And when we are aware of it, at least we'll not be putting some wrong statement, wrong move, wrong gesture, and that would help us in concluding the deal or the purpose and the objective we are there for. So like this, there are 26 countries. My personal experience, probably you can read those and you can either ratify and or write to me that, oh, this you don't agree with, but I think that's the more of observation I captured, and I thought it's good to share with you. This is again the dynamics which is shifting in the procurement. Probably I'll in the best interest of the time, I'll go faster on this. That we started with the price management and now we are talking about the value management. So competitive price is no more equation for sustainability. It's the value you are delivering to the customer, whether for intermediate or whether for the end product. Everybody is giving you money because of the value it is getting, they are getting from your offerings. This is something probably people who are doing in the supply chain, their management program, they will get to know, but prima facie, again, in a typical conventional procurement way, we put this 2x2 matrix in place for our decision making or our strategy formation with respect to handle the spend and the market complexity, and accordingly drive our sourcing strategy. Like we are talking about 4.0, industry 4.0. I think the procurement is also graduated accordingly. We were talking about the discounts, then focus on the category management, then the risk assessment in 3.0. Now in 4.0, we are talking about the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other stuff in this function as well, like any other function. So there's a transformation which is happening in smaller to bigger companies, and everybody wants to be speed oriented, highly connected with their customer base. And that's exactly the new learning zone for anybody who's working in the procurement and supply chain zone. Let me, this is my maybe second last slide, but it's a good one which I want to share with you.
Performing on the stage, you could see a spotlight focusing on them. Wherever they move, the spotlight also moves. Like that you may feel. But I tell you, all these are myth. Reality is different from the spotlight syndrome. Take life casually. You need not pressurize yourself, but at the same time, be prepared to face what life throws to you. It is your responsibility to show your value to the world. What is that value? That skill set that you have. So you have to equip yourself with the skill. What do you know extra other than your subject? Because whatever you learn here inside the campus, they serve to be a pizza base. Please remember, the educational qualification is just a pizza base. Have you ever seen anyone enjoying a pizza base alone without a topping? No. What do you have for topping that attracts the society? And that topping is your skill set. Are you good at conversing in different languages? Are you good at handling people who are from very heterogeneous population? Are you good at being, doing the work at the given time? Are you flexible? At the same time, are you firm? Are you confident of yourself? So many skill sets are needed. They call it under one umbrella, you all know, the HR skills. So without skill set, as a topping on your pizza base, I think life won't be enticing, life won't be successful. You have good things in store for you in future. For that, you need to have the courage to face the failure. It is only failures that would make us strong. And those who continuously face success, I tell you, they are weak at heart. They cannot even accept no as an answer. Whereas those who travel through the failures, I tell you, leave them in any corner of the earth, they will get back successfully. They will get back. Be confident. Each one seated here is a unique personality. You are special creations and you're limited edition. There could be nobody like you in this world. You are the one. You are unique. You are special. You are beautiful in the way you are created, and you are here created for a purpose, to do something to your family, to the institution, and to the society. So be bold to face failures. And every time you fall down, get up. Enjoy life.
So I think with the course you'll be
People
going
are-
into the market, and let's add topping once you reach in the real world. And that's something was the whole purpose of this presentation or discussion. So let me show you in this slide how India has moved now, and where your generation now can add up and take India to a new scale. Just see one India would be added into this chart. that was it for today. And probably, I think we look forward to see India on the top 1 or top 2. Maybe with your generation, it'll be possible. So that's it from my end for today. And probably, if there is any question or anything you have.
Anybody who has any questions, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Right.
Gina here, sir. Sir, first of all, thank you very much for sharing such an amazing information, knowledge regarding supply chain management, specifically on the sourcing strategy, global sourcing strategy. Sir, videos and animations are really amazing, sir. Sir, my one question on the procurement 4.0. Sir, like in current world, artificial intelligence and IoT is changing the whole procurement cycle along with the supply chain management. So, sir, how you see the IoT and AI is changing the procurement cycle in the manufacturing industry, particular I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think it has a great impact, and probably it has become a new necessity, whether it's a MSME or it's a bigger organization. People are realizing that there are certain other smart way of doing those routine activities, those analytical activities, which was either not given a due weightage earlier, and becoming connectivity or connected with other potential market has become equally important. So speed of information, speed of execution, which has become possible through these artificial intelligence at a much better accuracy level, is actually now gaining a lot of ground with even smaller organization. And believe me that now with the startup, when somebody start, they look for a basic integrated software to connect all the functions. And unlike earlier time, there was everything is happening in isolation. Now business has become more integrated, and things are happening much more leveraging these kind of digital world in much better way, as we have seen in our personal life also. Means can anybody live without the phone for a week or 10 days? Probably they will see, oh, I have a lot of time to do now, what to do. Probably same thing is happening in the business world. If I want my MIS on the global basis, if we are looking into faster connectivity, we cannot ignore these things. So this is totally changing the face of the business now. And people are keeping a separate budgeting provision for all these stuff to integrate their entire channel or entire resource or activities. I don't know if that is the question you asked or something specific you are looking for.
No, sir, exactly same I asked.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so last slide, it was amazing. We got so much information, like the beginning from who was the top export company and who became. So during Corona, it became like something like that India can become potential replacement for China. But many companies is considering Vietnam and Bangladesh instead of China. So India, there should be some problem with that, maybe tax regulation or government policies. So or any specific, or how we can do the changes, or maybe made in India, how can
See, let me put it this way. Every country would try their best to create their own USP. India is one of the countries where entrepreneurs have started at their own, and government joined them at a later stage. Unlike China, where the government initiated the things and the industry joined them. As you know, as we talked in one of the slides, that the demographic development is going to make our competitiveness much stringent and much competitive. And every country, whether it's a Vietnam, Thailand, African country, or other Asia Pacific country, they would actually invite customer and put up things. Probably what is our USP and edge over is the talent. And if you see many of the global organization, they have a R&D base in India, manufacturing base elsewhere. So far it was in China or other places. So from an education standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a R&D standpoint, probably we are still at least the top level in terms of we have our own edge, and that's the reason majority of the R&D driven company are still looking for an Indian talent. Now bringing, I'm sure once we have a more technology related stuff, probably manufacturing industry in India will more gain out of it. And as you rightly said that if a Japanese has to put up a plant, there's no emotional connect with India unless until they see the USP. And that USP as a organization, as a individual, I can create for myself, for my organization. But as a country, then sometime all these things has to create a unique equation for the investor. So wherever we are able to create, like in software industry, we are able to create. So still India has an edge over such investment into the software from the Western world or Japanese world. But in a manufacturing, we have yet to create that scale and that efficiency what China has done in a garment, Vietnam or Thailand is doing. And so probably we have to pick and choose what is good for our country, what is good to engage our talent, but that doesn't mean that others will not try. So it's like if you're not running, that doesn't mean other will not run. They will also do. So it's a talent world, and let's see that who wins. But I think we have pretty bright minds and people who are very much enthusiastic, and that's the reason whatever global company I have worked for, I could see a lot of Indians in all the streams, unlike any other country. I never see so many Vietnamese or Thailand or Chinese guys in the global arena other than US. If you go to any German company, French company, you will find Indians everywhere. And that's they are holding those positions because of their talent, and will continue to compete the rest of the world based on our talent or the quality of our talent. So things will be fine for us.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi, sir. So am I audible?
Yeah, please.
It's Nitesh here.
Yeah, Nitesh.
Just wanted to add to what you said right now. Plus, about the different nationalities, how their cultures vary. I feel for Indians, what it could be is the speciality of Indians is understanding other cultures, is what I've seen. Because that's how Indians fit so well with other cultures, you know, they adapt very well. So I worked in Dubai, and you actually have 160 nationalities living over there.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is literally run by Indians. So, I mean, you can definitely say that, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are very adaptable. The only weakness we have is sometimes we forget our own culture. We become so much adaptable that we pick up others, but we forget our own. And that's something which we have to work on.
Exactly. That should be, that should be worked on. Yeah.
Correct.
Thanks
for sharing. Thanks for sharing.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So would you say that with the COVID, there has been a general shift away from the lean just-in-time model to a more risk-averse just-in-case model?
Yes and no, in the sense that, well, every challenge has some new opportunities also. So I would say the previous question, how this particular COVID situation has made a lot of people to focus on technology to deliver just in time. And because people have started feeling, okay, this is something, if the business happens with this kind of disruption, they may not be very, very stable or sustainable in the scenario. So just in case was the initial concern. But eventually, when they switched over to the new normal, it is helping them to make it more customized solution, much better solution, just in time, or more customer delivering more customer expectations. And I think mm, that's everything has some positive aspects. So probably creating and pushing people on those opportunities, because typically you drink when you feel, when somebody make you feel thirsty. So corona has, at least from an industry standpoint, had pushed a lot of small and medium scale companies that they cannot ignore digitization, they cannot ignore uh, say distance between them and their customer. And now with the disruptions like COVID, some market is closed today, some market is open, but that some market they don't have access to. So only the digital or the technology platform can create those things. So I think it's a very mixed kind of a feeling and the opportunity which this COVID situation has created for the industry. People who are taking those as a challenge and upgraded their infrastructure, upgraded themselves. Now there is a second wave in Europe. So most of the guys who have been giving supplies to those, so some areas, some customers, some market has disconnected with them. But fortunately, in last 4-5 months, they have invested quite a lot in technology and other things, so that they can, with the switch of button, they can gear up the second other market to survive. And that has become very significant game changer, which nobody has invested if I go back 1 year back. So I think it has given us such a good learning in a very wrong way, or a difficult way, or not very pleasant way, but it is going to help us quite a lot.
Hello, sir. This is Aman here.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for the session, today's session. So I had question in mind, like we were discussing in one of your slides, you discussed about the vendor selection criteria.
Yeah.
So for that, I think you had selected some top 10 attributes.
Yeah.
So in those top 10 attributes, I think the financial position of the supplier was not evident.
Correct.
So we have seen even in the, I mean, in the COVID times, or maybe before COVID as well, in the manufacturing sectors, that most of the small players for the suppliers have gone bankrupt or so. So I believe financial position is also a very important attribute to look upon.
Absolutely. See,
Yeah.
when we say as a supply chain guy, there was exactly the financial position was not there, the top 10, but it was indirectly there when we talk about globally competitive. So competitive is not only the price aspect. Competitive is also a kind of a sustainability aspect and various other things. So if you're financially sound, you'll have a right technology in place, you will be more sustainable. And when you look at the previous slide prior to that, we have 54 attributes. So financial, as you, yes, in a core terminology, I'm doing a business. Let's say if you have seen the first, I think third or fourth slide, where we were talking about there's a one supplier standing on the bundle of currency. There's another supplier having balance of knowledge and money. And then we picked up that, okay, I'll go with the supplier which is having knowledge and money.
Correct.
So that doesn't mean we have ignored the money, but yes, it will directly come to us in a different other form, whether we call it the organization culture, technology, competitiveness, quality related aspect, and the other sustainability aspect. So it is there in a very indirect way.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any more questions from the batch? So would you like to share the PPT with us? So it was very
Yeah, sure.
very insightful.
I'll send it to you. No issue.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. So just a question that, so I mean, since we might have interviews very soon, so just something from your end, sir, from your experience, like what you would recommend, like what would a recruiter be looking at in an interview? Because we'll have a very limited time to, showcase our knowledge. So what is something that is extremely important, that we should know about it for a person who wants to go into supply chain?
So I think the one key question, how you are able to handle these kind of disruptions, which is not in your control, but still we have to run the show. Whatever function you're getting into, whether it's a procurement or supply chain or any other related function, we would be looking for more innovative way, because these disruptions is going to come back in a different form. So as long as you have some kind of an innovative way of handling these kind of a disruption, and at least my understanding is that whether it's a natural virus or is a biological weapon or whatever it is, these things or some different kind of a disruption is going to challenge the business world. And we will look into the supply chain professionals, that how we can keep our plan A, B, C, D, whatever. Means it's not a world of only plan A, there is no plan B. We have to be focused. I think the dynamics are changing now. So, probably we would be looking into that, something, those capabilities in the individual, that what we are not practicing, and somebody can come into this particular scenario and do things much more easily, whether using the digital technology or using some other platform or some other audio. Because in a business world, traditionally Asians are much more comfortable to do business when they meet person face to face. The digital exposure still gives us some kind of a doubt whether the person is real or artificial. And that mindset change, that frequency adoption in terms of leveraging this technology has to become a new normal in our business, which still is not new normal. And probably the more and more we do it, it will become a part of our routine. And that challenges probably youngster can bring better in any organization compared to oldies like us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for not only delivering such an inspiring and invigorating presentation, but taking so many of our questions. So you have convinced all of us that when it comes to either supply chain or any other domain of management, we have a complex world to manage. We can ace our careers if we have a people-centric approach to management, whether it be choosing the right supplier or motivating the right people to lead while maintaining our core values and integrity, and listening more and staying focused on our vision. I think, sir, I think what we've learned, that this is how we can deliver value and sustainability for our customers, and also challenge the preconceived norms. Thank you so much, sir, for these wonderful insights.
My pleasure. Thank you all, and good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.